think I might have it. Maybe.
I think we're live now, Charles.
Sweet.
So I think you can bring up Denny now.
Okay, I think we're on, I think.
We saw the screen just didn't look right, that's all.
So is there anybody out there that can see or hear us that can comment?
Yep, they can hear us, Denny. I got some thumbs up.
Okay.
All right. Hey, Denny, I think we're good.
Okay, well, can you then?
Live from that left panel.
Yeah. Can you get the share the screen or get the PowerPoint on?
Yep, give me a second.
Okay, presumably everyone can hear, so let's get started. We'll probably mute everyone, but if you have questions, you can either type them into the chat box and we'll try to pick them up from there, or unmute and go ahead and ask your question. So I want to welcome everybody. Sorry for the delay. I told these guys that when I first started doing these meetings, and a lot of you probably remember, we used overhead projectors and just slides, and all we had to worry about was the light bulb burning out. But we have two people on here with me, John Cusio and Charles Anderson, both of whom are, I guess, relatively new, 6 months or so to the OHSAA. John is, among a variety of things, he would be the sport administrator for basketball, and Charles is more involved with the officiating side. So, John, anything you want to say before we get started here?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you to everybody. Look forward to hopefully seeing you all out there this year. If there's ever anything that I can do to help you all, please don't hesitate to reach out.
I won't bother Charles right now because he's trying to get this PowerPoint up. If you did see the message I sent through, the required state rules online meeting went live this morning. So everyone should be able to go in and watch that. And then if all goes as planned, the eligibility application for the tournament should come on to the Class 1 officials. That should be available tomorrow. Angie's trying to get those out. She's also very busy working with the high school, or with the high school football playoffs officials and other fall sports. So lots going on in the office. They're trying to get this all coordinated, but that is the game plan. And then there'll be 2 weeks to get those applications back for tournament eligibility. Are we ready to go, Charles?
Yeah, Denny, I see the PowerPoint now.
Yeah. So, you still there, Charles, or do we lose you? I think you're muted. You're muted, Charles.
I'm here still,
Oh, okay.
and I just hit the wrong button and closed the PowerPoint. So sorry, give me one more second.
Okay. Anyone have any questions they want to ask before we get started here? We can field those. One thing I can talk about a little bit before we get into the PowerPoint is on the end of it, but some questions about what are we doing in terms of the COVID protocol and all that. I strongly suspect that we will still have to deal with COVID throughout the season, meaning some games may well get canceled or postponed. I don't think it's going away anytime soon. As far as the officiating, we're not going to do anything special in particular like we did last year, but certainly if you know a facility has very tight dressing quarters and you want to go dress like you did last year and leave right after the game, that's certainly fine. If you want to wear a mask, you can still do that, particularly if you're not vaccinated. Although I would encourage everyone to get vaccinated if you're not, but you can wear a mask. I would strongly discourage, fist bumping with the players or anything like that. Limit your contact. The social distancing is still a good idea because not only do we have COVID, but we have flu season coming on as well. So get flu vaccines. But whatever you need to do COVID-wise, we can still take those kind of precautions. No one's going to object to that. Any questions on that? Okay. Anything, John, in the chat box?
Nope, I'm not seeing anything new in the chat box.
Okay.
Somebody asked captains meetings.
Again, as far as I'm concerned, you can eliminate those. Just, you don't need to have them. Again, it's just, shaking hands between, I don't know what the teams, if they're going to get it. And do you know, John, would we put out any protocol on that? Are we going to have teams shake hands after games, or are we just going to avoid that?
We haven't put that protocol out yet. So I don't have an answer right now.
Okay. I mean, I guess that's up to the schools and the coaches more, but certainly I'm fine if you don't, the captain's meeting, there's no real reason for it anyway. So I'm fine if you don't do it. I think anything you can do to lessen your exposure, the better you are.
All right, Denny, I'm ready to hit play whenever you're ready.
Can you just put the slides up and I'll just talk? We don't have to play it. I'll just talk over them.
Oh, that works.
And then you can just advance them.
Denny, I had another question. In the past, this meeting has counted as our state rules meeting. Is that also the case this year?
Do we have a mechanism to track who's on?
I think that might be a Tyler question.
I mean, yeah, that's true. We have counted. So if we have a way to know who's on, then yeah, I'm fine with that, because basically this is what we're going to go through. I guess the other option would be to send an email in and say you were on and just kind of be on the honor system, but I don't know how else to track it.
Another question, are masks, vaccines, negative test results mandatory to work a game?
I don't, I don't think there's anything like that out, no. Only unless if there was some sort of something would come through. You know, there's a lot of talk about a vaccine mandate and certain industries and so forth. If something could come from the government that would override that, but right now there's no mask mandate. No, I mean, there is a mask mandate in Columbus, I believe. So I don't know how you want, you know, that would be up to the local jurisdictions, I think. I think probably the best answer there is we'll have to put something out. We'll have to think about that. And but you know, then you get into the fans and who's going to enforce it and all that. So I don't know. We're certainly not going to get involved with that.
Okay, Denny, I see your PowerPoint up.
Okay, so I think, you know, in terms of that, John probably is going to have to, something will come out here. I know we only got a few weeks, we're about a month, 5 weeks away from the start of the season. So we'll have to look into that as far as in towns or communities, if they, counties, school districts that have mask mandates and how we're going to handle all that. Okay, so let's go to the first slide here and we'll start talking about, there's only 3 rule changes. And the first one has to do with a potential shot clock adoption. And the answer here is very simple. Even if it goes into effect, it can't be effective until next season, 22-23. And we'll let you know about that when the time comes. But right now in Ohio, there's no decision made one way or the other for sure. Whether we'll institute a shot clock or not, and more to come. Next slide. Okay, now this was actually adopted a couple of years ago in Ohio, but it's now in the rule book that players can wear head coverings for religious reasons, and there is no waiver that's necessary, nothing from the OHSAA. If they're wearing it for religious reasons, they can wear it. The only real stipulation is that it has to be reasonably firmly attached so that it doesn't come off during regular play, but otherwise, and I think, you know, here's the 2 examples, females that would be of the Muslim faith, and then males that are the Jewish faith would be probably your 2 most likely people, although we do have some Amish Mennonite, potentially females that could wear head coverings, but the one thing, they cannot attach them with hairpins. All right, hairpins are not legal, so they're going to have to keep them attached by some fashion that's legal. Okay, next slide, please.
Hey, Denny, I got a question that came in. A question came in, are jackets required?
Nope. Jackets have never been required except for the tournament. And so, and last year we even waived it for the tournament. And probably, I think this year, I would say by tournament time, you know, we'll see what's going on, but I plan on wearing them for the tournament, but during the regular season, jackets are optional. And that's right out of the handbook. Okay, head coverings, if it's a medical head covering or for cosmetic reasons, then they need a letter of permission from the OHSAA. So if some player comes out there with a football helmet on and says, I need to wear this for a medical reason, they need authorization from the OHSAA. So that's the difference. The other change, which is one that we never adopted, so this should be really easy, but Signal 37 was that punch that they used, that they brought in 10, 15 years ago for team control fouls. It didn't make sense then. They finally figured it out, took them a while, but we never used that. We used the same signal for team control and player control, and that's the hand behind the head, and that is now the correct signal for both fouls, and we won't be using that punch signal that we never used anyway. Next. I've never seen one of these, but this came through from the Federation. It's called a Q collar, and it's supposedly used to prevent traumatic brain injury. Oops. And so if those happen to appear, there is no rule that prohibits them wearing this Q collar, so it is permissible, and there is nothing that you need from the OHSAA or any medical letter or doctor's note or anything else. It's something that they can wear just like some of the other pads and braces and things that they wear. Okay, the points of emphasis for this year. One that we've used for several years, and again, it has to do with mechanics and signals. And I'm not going to read through this. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. We expect that our officials will use the Federation mechanics and the Federation signals. I know we have officials that work different levels, and I don't just mean at the OHSAA, but collegiately, Division 2, 3, men's, women's, and they all have some different signals and different mechanics, and they have different rules. We don't use their rules, we use Federation rules. And we don't use their mechanics, we use Federation mechanics and Federation signals. And certainly if your goal or if you're members of your association is to advance in the tournament levels, we would expect that they get on board and use the Federation signals. Basically, in the manual, about the only thing we deviate from out of that manual has to do with the rotation after a foul, that the calling official, once they report the foul, they go opposite the table as opposed to staying table side, which is in the manual. Other than that, I can't think of much that we, really anything that we deviate from there. So the official's manual is what we want to follow, and the signals that are in the chart in the back, those are the signals that we want to use, and we don't need a lot of theatrics and creativity with the signals and try to make them look cute or fancy. Just stick with the basic signals. I'd be more happy if you get the calls correct. That's the important thing.
Hey, Denny, we have another question.
Okay.
So are we discouraged from using a punch with the hand behind the head to sell a close offensive foul?
Well, I mean, if you really want the correct answer, most people, and that's why we didn't use the punch to begin with, because that's what people use for charging. All right, that is not the correct signal. I don't know if you can see me or not, but the correct signal for charging is this. And in all my career, I've only ever seen about one person ever use that properly. Most people use the punch. So that's why we did not adopt this change years ago. So if you still use the punch for charging, that's fine. That's a battle I'm not going to take up because everybody knows what it means. Everybody's used to it. So you can do it. But if you want to be technically correct, two hands, that's the signal for charging. And so some examples again of where we need to use signals is that ball goes violation or foul, either one. We need to get our hand up, either open hand or fist. If it's out of bounds, we don't just point, put the hand up, open hand, and then point the direction. Know how to report fouls, jersey color, who's going to get the throw in and where it's going to be, mark that spot or indicate that spot, and then go and report your foul. But these are things you can practice, and we need to look sharp and do this consistently.
Hey, Denny.
Yes.
Does using Federation mechanics now mean that we should blow the whistle to alert beckon substitutes?
No, and I don't think that's in the manual either. You can do it if you need to, if it's necessary, if there's been a prolonged delay, but we are not blowing the whistle to bring every sub in. And I think you all know, if you've been around more than a year or two, you know that that's something that I've stressed for the last 10 years. We don't just need whistles being blown all the time. So if that's that you've taken that literally, there's two deviations from the manual. Okay, timeout administration. This is one that I really feel the Federation could help us with, but they continue not to. They want to make it a point of emphasis, but not really put any teeth in the rule. So during a live ball, as long as the team's in control, either the players on the court or the head coach can request a timeout. I'm fine with players. Difficult trying to acknowledge the head coach. Turn around, look, see who's requesting the timeout. Is it the head coach? Is it the correct team? But that is the rule. So until they change it, we'll go with that. But I will tell you that I'm more concerned that you keep your attention focused to the action on the court. And if you have people diving for the ball and rolling around and the ball flying around, I don't care what what coach is yelling, just ignore them. Take care of business on the court. If you miss the timeout, then it gets missed. I know the coach won't like it, but your number one priority is the action on the court, and that's what you need to take care of first. And then hopefully, if coach requests a timeout, somebody of the 2 or 3 of you out there may recognize it. And oftentimes it's going to be an off official that sees that, because the official that has the action in front of him, he's focused in on that, and he's not got time to be looking around and seeing who might be saying timeout. So stick with the mechanics. And like I said, don't worry about it. If it gets missed, it gets missed. But this is the rule, and we're stuck with it for now. So here again, this is what we talked about. It's just more verbiage that you can read. I'm not going to read it to you, but it has to do with they're concerned about granting timeouts when the ball's loose and not in player control. Well, again, if they're that concerned, they could fix it very easily, but they choose not to. They just put the burden on the officials, and so we'll do the best we can with it. And here's an example. Again, the player must be in possession of the ball for that team to call timeout. I might have said team control before. I would be wrong when it's not team control. Must be in possession of a player to call the timeout. On sporting conduct, this is an issue at all levels in all sport. So again, like I've said before and what's in the video, our level of sports is part of the academic setting. These are student athletes, and conduct that would not be tolerated in a classroom shouldn't be tolerated on the court either. And so any type of taunting, opponents, any type of throat slashes or any signals, anything like that that's demeaning, certainly anything verbally, whether it's profanity or just inappropriate comments to opponents, these things need to be addressed. And basically the way to address it is with a technical foul, and we will support that. You need to control the game, manage it, and we expect players and coaches to conduct themselves properly and appropriately and be good examples of the schools that they represent. I think you can just skip that and go on to the next one. Now, here's where we get into a little bit of a bind sometimes. Fans obviously can get out of control. I understand that. And they need to be held accountable as well. But that responsibility rests primarily with the school administration. And I would encourage you, if there's a fan that's acting improperly, getting out of line, that you let the school administrator take care of it. There is, by OHSAA rules, a requirement that a school administrator be present at every contest, whether it's junior high, all the way up to high school. So utilize them, hold them accountable. If they don't do their job, then that's where you send an email or go through the website, the MyOHSAA website, file a report, and get that to John, and then John will get involved with the school administration and hold their feet to the fire a little bit. When we have officials that go after fans and try to take on that responsibility, it generally doesn't work out very well. So use the administrators, let them take care of the fans.
Hey, Denny,
Yes, sir.
Got a question. Says, I understand the reason for the deviation from the NFHS mechanics on free throws, but what is the rationale for not using the whistle when beckoning subs?
Because the whistle, I wanted to get somebody's attention. And two things happen, particularly with subs. When we start blowing the whistle all the time, bringing in subs, then the scorer quits blowing the horn. That's his job, is to notify, or her job, notify us when there's a sub there, and via using the horn. That's basically the reason. The other reason is we just get whistles tooting all the time, and pretty soon people just start to ignore them. They just become used to them. So that's the rationale. There's no good reason, in my opinion, unless if you got a good reason, send it to me. I'd be glad to read it, but this has been our stance for quite some time, and we're not just going to blow the whistles all the time. You know, people want to blow them after on every inbounds play. You know, maybe they do it in the NBA, whatever, but you just don't need it. It's just a lot of extra noise, a lot of extra tooting, and then, like I said, pretty soon we don't know what it means. I want the whistle to have significance when it's utilized. When there's a sub coming in, the scorer should blow the horn. That's what you should recognize. It also slows things down, because when you start tooting and bringing them in, they just start running in without stopping at the scores table, and that creates more of an issue for the scorers. So there's a lot of reasons. Okay, screening. I'm not going to go through this. You're the interpreters. You should understand the screening rule. Hopefully, I think this is a topic that's very good to review at your local meetings. Spend some time on it. What constitutes a legal screen? What's an illegal screen? How does it, time and distance depends if the player has the ball, doesn't have the ball, all those different things. So I would go through that in pretty good detail with your officials at your local meeting. I think the best way to do it not only is to read it, but is also to get a couple people up there and demonstrate, so that it can actually see what needs to happen. And here's kind of outlines what constitutes a legal screen, that you have to be stationary, you got to have both feet on the floor, and really inbounds, that should be there as well. When the contact occurs, time and distance are relevant. Screener has to be stationary unless they're both moving in the same path in the same direction. So I would not just go over it that quickly. I would spend a little time with this. And again, it's a difficult call sometimes. And our goal is really to be as consistent as we can on this. And so review it with all your officials. Obviously, if it's not a legal screen, then it becomes an illegal screen. And here's examples of how you can create illegal screens. And I think the big couple is one, if there's no distance, it is a blind screen, and we do not give sufficient time and distance, that makes it illegal. And also screeners who tend to stick their arms or their hips or their elbows or their thigh out to either force through a screen or to prevent someone from going around them. Those are both types of illegal screens and illegal contact. And that, for one thing, if it doesn't get called, it leads to rough play and things just escalate from there. So screening, while it's a very effective tool and is perfectly legal, it needs to be done properly, and it needs to be officiated properly.
Hey, Denny.
Yes, sir.
Got a couple things here.
Okay.
Speaking of meetings, is there an allowance for virtual local rules meetings?
I believe there's allowance for one. Is that right, John? Isn't that right?
I'd have to check on that.
I think you can do 2 online meetings.
There,
that's what the question was.
2 for the association, or 2 that we're doing?
The DODs are doing 2
right
online meetings, and then the association can hold another 2 online meetings.
Okay, there's your answer.
Okay, next one. looks like a statement here. Our job is also to make sure that we don't have subs running onto the floor when the ball is being put in play. The whistle stops everything and allows us to send subs back to the table to make sure they have checked in properly. The sub who is trying to come in too quickly will stop for the whistle before he will stop for the horn. Especially at lower levels, this can be a problem.
Thanks for your comments. Appreciate it. Okay, going on with screening. Like I said, let's review it. Let's try to be consistent with it, understand the parameters, and see if we can, it's something that we can improve on a little bit since it is a point of emphasis. Next. Here again, talks about distance, 1 step or 2. So here's some examples that are diagrammed. And like I said, if you can get a couple of your officials to actually demonstrate this at a meeting, or if you can do it on a court and get some players and have them do it, that's always very effective. I think seeing it is a better way of teaching than trying to read about it. So this shows how you can set a screen where number 12 on the left is actually in the visual field of number 3. So time and distance aren't the factor there that it is in the right, where number 5 is a blind screen. So she has to allow some distance for number 4 to take a step back if 3 is going to try to utilize that screen appropriately. Okay, traveling. I think by far the most difficult call that we have to make and judge on in multiple times a game. It's not something that happens just once in a season. And now we have the Euro step that's been introduced as well. I think, let me say this about the Euro step, that if you really look at the Euro step, it's no different than the steps, the move that a player makes to the basket for basically a layup. The difference is the Euro step is more of a lateral move, where the traditional layup move is more of a north-south direction. But the number of steps or the amount is still the same as far as what is legal. Secondly, no matter whether it's a Euro step, a jump stop, a spin move, any type of move, you have to be able to identify the pivot foot. If you can't identify the pivot foot, then it's nothing but a guess. So criteria number 1 is you got to know what the pivot foot is before you can properly adjudicate any of these moves. The other thing I want to say is that there is word on the street that I've said don't call traveling. And that is not true. I don't think any of you have ever heard me say, do not call traveling. What you have heard me say is if you're going to call it, make sure it's correct. We have far too many phantom travel calls. That's what I do not want. If they travel and it's, illegal, then call it. I'm fine with that. But make sure that it's traveling. I see way too many head fake travels that end up getting called, or moves that are perfectly legal, but they look funny, so we call traveling. And that is not what we're looking for. We don't need game interrupters. So if it's traveling, fine, call it, but make sure it is. So again, just like in the previous slides with the screening and blocking, this is another very good topic to review at a local meeting with someone demonstrating it. The easiest way I've ever seen it done, or the best way, is the person that's demonstrating wears 2 different color shoes. So it's easy to say the red shoe's the pivot foot, the white shoe isn't, or whatever the case may be. But review these different types of moves, demonstrate them, or have a player come in and demonstrate them. Jump stops are another one that trick us frequently. Jump stop can be a very effective move. Some of these players are really good, and they can cover a lot of territory legally without traveling. And then others aren't so good, and then they get in a little extra step or an extra move, and they gain an advantage not intended by the rules. So traveling is another good thing to review at a local meeting. You can never go over that too much, really. So we talked about the Euro step, and it's becoming more and more popular, and players are using it more. And if done properly, it is legal. And so the onus is on us as officials to understand it and to be able to adjudicate it properly. So again, it doesn't matter if it's a Euro step or any other move. If the pivot foot touches the floor twice before the ball is released, then that is traveling. And that's why it's essential that you be able to identify the pivot foot if you're going to rule on this correctly. Spin move is another one that sometimes confuses people. You can spin, and with your non-pivot foot, you can touch the court as many times as you want, as long as your pivot foot is the one you use to spin with and it stays in contact with the floor. The other foot can bounce around 4 or 5 times if necessary. So again, you have to be able to identify which is the pivot foot if you're going to get this called correctly. But if the pivot foot's lifted and then returns to the floor the second time before the ball is released, either on a pass or a shot, then you have traveling. So this is just an example. It talks about the spin move. So go ahead and you can read through that later. And this is a diagram. So again, they have the pivot foot and they step. If that pivot foot comes down again, then they travel. Jump stops are a little bit tricky because it basically depends on which foot lands first. The first one to land is your pivot foot. Sometimes they land simultaneously, in which case then either foot could be your pivot foot. And the only caution I tell you here is don't try to split hairs on which one landed first if they land simultaneously or very nearly simultaneously. You can get way too technical on that. If they both come down primarily at the same time, then just make it simultaneously and let them decide which foot they want to use as the pivot foot. And again, this just kind of goes through the jump stop and the moves that constitute a jump stop. Go ahead on that. So here, again, if they go from 1 foot to 2, all right, then they've used up their pivot foot. If they go from 2 to 1, they can use 2, come down on 2 simultaneously, then either foot can be their pivot foot. But here, as they diagram it here, looks like the right foot is the pivot foot, and then they come down with both feet, then they cannot move either foot. They've used their pivot foot, and they need to shoot or they travel. So it talks a little bit about dribbling and the fundamentals there, that you, if you're going, you can lift your pivot foot to pass or shoot, but if you're going to start a dribble, then you have to start the dribble. You have to release the ball before you lift your pivot foot. Again, don't be overly technical on this, especially at lower levels, but there is an advantage gain if you allow them to lift their pivot foot before they start the dribble. And then what I just said is true. You can lift your pivot foot, but you have to pass or shoot. And they lift their pivot foot and hold it there for several seconds before they pass or shoot. Everybody oohs and ahs, but that is legal. You cannot travel while you're dribbling the ball. Doesn't matter how many steps you get in between dribbles. It is impossible by rule to travel while dribbling the ball. And if you're out of bounds, You're allowed to bounce the ball during the throw-in, catch it, bounce it again. There's no double dribble rules out of bounds, and there is no traveling out of bounds. All right, we know there's a designated spot, and that is 3 feet wide. You can move your feet as much as you want in there. You can back up as far as to the wall, so you can move your feet in that space, and there's just no travel rules there. So if they violate the rule, okay, of a designated spot, so they have a designated throw-in spot on the baseline, and they take off running the baseline, that is a violation, but it is not a traveling violation, and do not use the travel signal. There is really no signal for it. It's just but it is a violation. You just put your hand up and then point the other direction, but it's not traveling like a lot of people say. And this is probably should have been the first slide instead of the last. Pivot foot's the key. Just a reminder on elbows. This was a point of emphasis several years ago. Again, why they didn't codify this and put it right in the rule book is beyond me, but it's still pertinent. If you have, and this is swinging elbows now, the elbow has to be swung, not just if they run into their elbow, but if you have a swinging elbow and the contact is above the shoulders, so it's in the head or neck area, it is an intentional foul. That's where you start. It could also be flagrant if it's bad enough, which would then, by saying flagrant, you're implying that you would eject the player. But contact with a moving elbow, swinging elbow in the head or neck area is an intentional foul. That's where we start. So let's try to work on that. You know, I didn't have video in here, but I have plays from last year where a girl had her nose broken, had to go to the hospital, blood all over the place, and the official initially wasn't even going to call a foul. And they ultimately did get to an intentional foul, but we've got to be diligent on these. These are safety fouls. These are dangerous fouls. And we do not want people swinging their elbows. And if the coach says, well, that's what I taught him, then he needs to teach them something else, because that is not legal. And we do not have some of the other rules that other codes have for allowing this kind of contact if the player's too close to them or whatever.
Hey, Denny.
Yes.
Comment says 2 shots at the ball.
Intentional foul is 2 shots and the ball closest to the spot of the foul. That's correct.
Thank you.
Okay, are there any other questions or comments anyone has? John, Charles, anything that you want to bring up here? Local meetings, I think, start next week, probably. So again, you can use this material. It's the state rules is online. You can take it right off. If you can have a website or have web access, Wi-Fi, you can use this in your local meetings and review some of these things. Any other chat box things, John?
I don't see anything right now. Just got one come in. How many shots for ejection?
Flagrant fouls are, well, if it's a flagrant personal foul, well, it could be 3 if they were in the act, if they were shooting a 3-point shot, but generally it's 2. Technical foul is 2. I mean, if it's flagrant, it's going to be 2 and the ball out of bounds. If it's a technical foul, it's 2 and out of bounds at mid-court.
Okay, I got another one. Does the principle of verticality come into play with regard to elbows?
Principle of verticality says you have your body plane is straight up. That's basically pertains to the defender. You could have swinging elbow on the defender, but it's generally on the offense, oftentimes on a rebound, or else when they're like double teamed and they're trying to create space. So in those cases, Verticality is more dealing with jumping straight up and down, but extending your elbows and swinging them is not verticality. No.
Okay. I think we might have had this question earlier, but the meeting requirement is still 4 meetings. It can be any combination of online and in person, ?
That is correct.
I mean, yeah, it's 4 meetings is correct. And then we will be producing 2. I'll be putting out 2 that you can use and get credit for. The associations can do online meetings, or they up to 2, and then the rest of theirs have to be in person. So in theory, you could do all 4, I guess, online if you did those 2 and my 2. Some people already have a meeting credit from like the Capitol Camp this summer, so that would count in that 4 as well.
All right. Pivoting with elbows exposed and contact above shoulders is made still intentional ?
If they swing their elbows, yes. Now, you need to look in the rule book when they talk about swinging elbows, that's where the elbow is turning faster than your torso. So if you stick your elbow out and turn, and it's the same speed as the rest of your body's turning, then it's not a swinging elbow. Then no, then it does not fall under that intentional foul category. So that you have to, first of all, understand that, like I said, it's a swinging elbow. And not any contact of the head or neck is an intentional foul. So if somebody's going in for a layup and you try to block the shot and you just kind of slap them on the face, that's a foul, but that doesn't make it intentional. All right, what we're talking here about is swinging elbows, and by the definition of that, right out of the rule book, it's when the elbow is faster than the torso of the body. Those are the ones, and those are the dangerous ones. Those are the ones that are intentional fouls.
Okay, I think you may have said this, Denny. Somebody commented 2 free throws for flagrant fouls.
Yes. Am I missing something there? Somebody speak up if I'm missing the point, or. If we're trying to play stump the star or what we're doing here, but it's a flagrant foul, it's a 2-shot foul. 3 if they're shooting a 3-point shot.
And the ball.
Okay,
Someone put that. Someone asked, where do we access the PowerPoint?
Well, the power. This you can. This will be the same. This is what you will have for the state online meeting.
Correct.
I don't know, Charles. You guys have a copy of this. If you can, is there some way you can post it or distribute it, or people can access it?
Tyler will post it somewhere later on down the line. I'm just not sure when.
So on page 68 of the rule book, Rule 10.7 down at the bottom, number 4, 2 free throws if intentional or flagrant plus ball for throw-in. Does that answer the question? Okay, anything else?
I don't see anything right now. Why don't we give it another 10 seconds?
Okay, here's your last chance. I do appreciate everyone's efforts, and sorry again that we were a little late getting this on, but at least we got it on. If you have anything that comes up that you can't answer, you're the first line of defense and rule interpretation, but if not, then let me know. and try to get you an answer. Like I said, as far as the COVID goes, we will have to be flexible again, and you may get into some local issues that you'll just have to deal with as it is in that community or with that health department, that jurisdiction. We're not going to be able to issue something that covers the whole state for those kind of things, and we'll continue to work through it. I was pleased last year we were able to conduct state girls and boys tournament. We went all the way through the tournaments. So yes, we did have some teams that had to forfeit out because they had issues with their team, but overall we were able to pull that off, and with the help of the University of Dayton, it was I think a real success considering the circumstances. Okay,
right.
anything? That's it?
We've got a couple more.
Okay.
Still a violation. It's swing and do not make contact.
Correct. Yes, by rule.
Okay. Is everything pregame same as last year?
Well, I don't know what they're asking. I mean, we already talked about we don't need to have the captain's meeting. I said if you want to wear a mask, you can. That's optional. Jackets optional. What else? I guess we need more. I need more clarification what you're going after.
Okay, I'll see if that comes in. Someone asked, meetings start next week. Can we get the PowerPoint before then? That's something that Charles and I can follow up with Tyler on for you all. All right, we'll just do another 10 seconds, Denny, and then if not, we'll be done.
Okay.
Okay, no coaches meeting, question mark, no fist bumping players.
I wouldn't. People are still dying from COVID, trust me. I think anything you can do, social distancing, that guy carry a little bottle of hand sanitizer in your jacket or your pants or whatever. This is not a joke, folks. So if you know me, you know what my other job is, and I can tell you that just today we opened up another floor because of the surge of COVID that we have in Allen County. So I would take it serious, and it's just unnecessary exposure as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and you somebody didn't have audio to start, just to confirm, no captain's meetings.
No nope, you don't have to do that.
Somebody commented, basically staying away from the players as best as possible.
I would.
And hey, we got a great job, guys. Much appreciated. So in the comment section.
Thank you. It's sometimes these go off smoothly and sometimes it's a technical challenge, but thanks to Charles for persevering and getting this up and running, and appreciate that, and good luck to everyone. And again, thanks for all your efforts, and stay safe and stay healthy.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
All right. See you, everybody.
Okay. Thank you.